Okay, well, hi, everybody. I want to talk with you today about the African Library Project. I've been involved for 20 years since its founding because I was there at the beginning when my wife, Chris Bradshaw, and I and our two kids took a trip to Lesotho, a kingdom in southern Africa, to just explore and the culture and ride ponies in the backcountry. There are very few roads, very poor country, very beautiful country. And along the way, my son, our son, got bored. So he whipped out a book and did his favorite thing, started reading. And my wife, Chris, asked our guide, are there any libraries in Lesotho? And he said, yeah, I think there's one in the capital city. And that just blew us away. One library in a country. So turns out the chief of the tribe where we rented the horses and the guide had said we always wanted a library. And so Chris made it happen. This is actually our first library. This photo was taken several years when we returned to Lesotho. But the chief wanted a library thinking he wanted books. We said, okay, we can supply the books, use children's books from our own shelves and from our neighbors, but you need to supply the space, the furniture, have someone trained to be a librarian, and have a local leadership team. And he said, okay. So he did his part and we did ours. And that began the African Library Project, whose mission is to start and improve small libraries in sub-Saharan Africa and English-speaking countries, while along the way educating Americans about Africa. It's been quite a journey working with the African Library Project because look at this. For older people like my age 65 plus, in the African countries where we're active, literacy is less than 50%, sometimes much less. But the younger generation has much greater literacy, rising above 50%, to 60, 70, 80%, and they have no books to read. It turns out there's no publishing industry in Africa. There are very few English language books. The textbooks are boring. And so the African Library Project has gathered gently used children's books through our all volunteer organization and created so far 4,143 libraries in 13 countries through 4.3 million books that have been donated. That serves over 3 million people. And those numbers just blow me away when I think about how modestly this began. And right now, these 13 countries cover most of the English-speaking countries in Africa. So how does it work? Well, we say that any American can create a library by gathering 1,000 gently used children's books from your friends or neighbors or excess books from the public library or from nearby bookstores, raise $650, and boom, you've created an African library. And you can turn a space like this into a space like this. It's a transformation to stock the shelves with books that kids actually want to read. We couldn't do this without having recruited a partner in each country where we're active. This is an image from one of our biannual African Library Project summits, where we bring together our partners from the nonprofits in Africa that work with us, along with some American volunteers, and exchange best practices and support each other. Now, these libraries are a little different from our libraries. First of all, they're not very easy to access. Some of them are far from the road, and to get the books there can take some extraordinary measures. This is an actual photo taken of kids walking the books to their village from the nearest road. We support the libraries to be set up by providing a small guide called How to Set Up and Run a Small Library in Africa. This is something we discovered and we kind of took over and improved, and we now publish this and send it with every library. And it allows people to set up libraries that are simple. No Dewey Decimal System, just a simple way to classify books and make them available to students and to the community. We also include some books on HIV and AIDS because, as you probably know, the countries that we serve have rampant rates of HIV/AIDS. So we want to provide educational materials to help stem that. And another key aspect is that we use teachers who are already in the schools and train them to be librarians, teacher librarians, and rely on our in-country partners to help these people function well. So the heroes of the African Library Project are our volunteers. So here in the US, this is a group of volunteers who put together so many book drives that they could rent a truck to ship it down to New Orleans instead of mailing it, which saved them some money and got a lot of books to our container. Here are 4 first graders who blew us away by collecting 1,000 books and then over one weekend collecting the money needed by going door to door and saying, we're helping the children in Africa. Will you help us? And of course, everybody gave them money and they came in with the money they needed. Fantastic book drive organizer heroes. We've had families, many families, church groups, schools. This family created 60 libraries over a period of 5 years. Alec and Olivia Vercruz, these twins, started at 9 years old and didn't stop. In fact, they were featured. We brought them to Africa with the summit for our summit, and they were featured speakers. It blew away the Africans that a 12-year-old would be speaking to them. And we have retirees, Lions Club, every organization you can think of. These books really change lives. It's not just by promoting their literacy so they can read better. It's by opening their imagination because they get to read adventures and stories about a world beyond their own world that inspires them to want to learn and achieve and grow. Because if they have no books to read, they only know what they can hear from others in their village or in their community. So I believe that together, our partners in Africa, our book drive organizers here are making a huge difference. You're welcome to join in and learn more about this, to volunteer, to organize a book drive, to donate if you like, to bring your skills. We're almost all volunteer, and we would welcome you. So thanks very much for listening.